Objection!
The court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Letter Sky. Emma hasn't come back. Allow me to call the next witness to the stand. The officer in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime. Drinking on the job in court. Witness, please state your name and occupation. Me, partner? Oh, I'm just a man. Same as you. Wandering the trails of civilization. Occasionally helping the elderly cross intersections when needed. Yes, we get it. Oh, I know. You're a patrolman. As for my name, if you listen hard enough, you can hear the howling wind calling it out. Aaron Black. To be exact, it's Jake Marshall, Your Honor. Howling wind? I've never heard Edgeworth described that way before. Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You were in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day the crime took place. Is this correct? According to the papers, partner. What do you mean? A desperado's soul is as boundless as the desert sands. No paper can sum it up. Maybe it's best we get on with this quickly. I do not understand these Western metaphors. Please share with us your testimony of the day of the crime. In plain old English. My job was to keep a wary eye on that bone orchard. They said I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. Besides, the room's protected by 2 security systems anyway. If I remember right, I was at a street side saloon at the time it went down. You admit to drinking on the job? Just an innocent traveling man, so if you're out of ammo, it's time I hit the trail. I can't say I particularly care for your attitude. I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Wait a minute. What do you mean by 2 security systems? I mean the security cameras and the ID card reader. I reckon even a cowpoke like you knows about those. Yes, well, what about the fingerprint-activated locks on the evidence lockers? Fingerprint-activated locks? What kind of newfangled doohickeys are those? He's not being very helpful. He's not that good with machines or following orders. Everyone's got their weaknesses now, don't they, Mr. Prosecutor? This one seems like trouble. Okay, Mr. Wright, trouble is all yours. How exactly did you keep an eye on the evidence room? I just made sure nothing moved in the security camera monitor. That room's so still, even time dies in there. I was just a caretaker who interred the recordings. You interred them? Videos of nothing aren't that useful. When the time would come, I'd erase the tape. If nothing unusual is recorded, tapes are to be erased every 6 hours. Each time I'd erase a tape, felt like I was erasing a part of my life. This guy has a flair for the dramatic, but it isn't going to do him any good. So in actuality, you don't physically enter the evidence room. But you made your rounds on the day of the crime, right? Ain't you heard a word I said, partner? I told you that ain't my style. I don't understand. No desperado I know lets rules get in his way. No desperados I know join the police force. So Officer Marshall, on the day of the crime? Just between you and me, I didn't set foot in the evidence room that day. There was a rubber glove stuck in the victim's locker. Do you know anything about that? Sorry, partner, can't say I do. I haven't been in that crypt in weeks. How does this guy avoid being fired? Used to be a detective, so you've used the evidence room in the past, correct? Of course. Back in the day, my locker was a gold mine of evidence. And yet you didn't know about the fingerprint locking mechanism? Sorry, partner. I ain't good with machines. Couldn't even tell you how a bike works. It's quite incredible. The sensors on the locker handles cannot be seen. It's well known that some detectives are unaware of their presence. Now that you mentioned it, Detective Gumshoe said something like that too. At any rate, it doesn't seem this is relevant to the crime. Can you tell us what you were doing when the crime took place? What were you doing in a place like that? I was eating spaghetti. Not even Angel's steak lunches can beat that parlor's Vangoli's sepia pasta. Do you mean to tell us you abandoned your police duties to eat some noodles? Not all desperados eat tacos, partner. That's not what I meant. I hope this at least taught you a lesson. That's strange. This is usually where Edgeworth says, "Did you not want a raise this year?" That's my impression of Phoenix doing an impression of Edgeworth. Out of ammo, Officer Marshall? That's right, partner. As you call it, evidence. If you plan on pinning to this crime, you better draw. Otherwise, you're just wasting my time. My steel horse is waiting to carry me back west into the sunset. One thing seems clear. Despite being responsible for guarding the evidence room, the witness doesn't appear to have seen anything. Texans don't take orders from anyone. Everyone knows that. Apparently your superiors don't. Okay, I have a trump card up my sleeve, so I best keep my cool. Before I use it, though, I better up the ante. Oh, wow, that was it? He claims he was at a saloon. I claim otherwise. Objection! Officer Marshall, doesn't it strike you as odd? That is, you being called in to testify like this? After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime. And yet you dragged me down here. Explain yourself, partner. It's quite simple. You left a very large trail behind at the scene. Or to be exact, a handprint. Isn't real good, partner. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of that crypt. I pay my respects, that is, make my rounds about once a month. It's only natural my fingerprints would be in there. I only wish it were, officer. But you see, your fingerprints were covered in blood. Witness, what's the meaning of this? Your blood-stained fingerprints were at the crime scene. The blood was wiped away, however. A luminol test clearly revealed this. Well, Officer Marshall. Seems to me there ain't a person in this room with a head on his shoulders. I take it you have an explanation then, Officer Marshall. About the blood-stained fingerprints. Very well, you may begin your testimony about your fingerprints. Found at the scene of the crime. Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be in that evidence room. One of them just happened to be at the same place as the blood-stained handprints. Murderer touched the locker where my fingerprint was by chance. Bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Or didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves? See? I had nothing to do with it. The witness's explanation appears valid, although there's room for doubt. Life wouldn't be fun without doubt, partner. The defense will now cross-examine. This guy's hiding something, I can feel it! That's my chance to prove it. That's because you, how did you put it, pay your respects once a month? Yeah, that's right, that and one more thing. That locker happens to be mine. What? What do you mean? I mean what I said. That's the locker I used when I was a detective. Locker I still use. All that's in there now, though, is a heap of broken dreams. I see. Be strange if my prints weren't all over that locker. Apparently his fingerprint data was never removed from that locker's programming. He must have been using the fingerprint lock all this time without ever knowing it. So then, what about the bloody handprints? Wasn't mine, no mystery. Please explain. My locker is covered with my fingerprints. Just so happens. The chances of that happening are 1,000,000 to 1. On the contrary, one could argue just the opposite. The chances of that not happening are 1,000,000 to 1. Get one thing straight, partner. You ain't gonna get no reward from me with a mere fingerprint. You wanna know why? Unrelated. They're as different as night and day. Kinda like cereal and cereal. One's got to do with breakfast, the other's a type of murder. He's right. Although seemingly alike, they're totally different. I don't see what homonyms have to do with this. How do you know that? I may be a loner, but I still do my job. I keep up on the reports. There was a bloodstain at the scene, thought to be left by the murderer. That's right. It was found on Detective Gumshoe's locker. However, no fingerprints were detected on that handprint. Oh yeah, I think we tried that too. So that would mean the murderer, wearing gloves, happened to place their hand on top of Officer Marshall's fingerprints. That's the only logical conclusion. You starting to get the picture, partner? The picture? This sea of the blood in the desert is just food for the buzzards. There's only one reality, and that's this. The tape. As long as my trail ain't in there, you can't say otherwise. Oh, but there is a trail. This isn't getting us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully where you're going with this cross-examination. Yes, Your Honor. Now then, continue your testimony, Officer Marshall. Too bad it wasn't me in that video. What do you mean by that? You want to time into this crime, ain't that right, partner? If so, that video is the only direct evidence you have. That video is next to useless. It's full of blind spots. Blind spots? Places you can't see. The camera is panning back and forth. The floor isn't shown. If someone was familiar with the camera's position, they could leave the room without being caught on tape. We don't have time for your speculations, Mr. Wright. Well, Mr. Wright, if you can show us evidence of the video that indicates Officer Marshall is present, please do so now. Very well. Allow me to point out your mistake, Officer Marshall. Tread carefully, Mr. Wright, or you might wind up being the one making the mistake. Now then, let's have another look at the video. Show us this incriminating evidence of the witness. Alright, fast forward. Like an octopus I attack! Trying to strangle him. Slow it down. Boom. Right there. Bringing our attention back to the security camera is a mistake I'm afraid you'll soon not forget, Officer Marshall. The days are short in Texas, so are our tempers. Sum up what you have to say in 8 words or less. Very well. You can clearly be seen in this video. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Exactly 8 words. Not bad, partner. The key lies in a certain locker shown in the video. That locker with the white cloth? That was the witnesses, I believe. Now then, let's rewind a bit. Rewinding, rewinding, rewinding. Oh, the white cloth. It's gone. What's the meaning of this, Officer Marshall? When the crime took place, the white cloth wasn't there. Then it suddenly appeared. There's only one explanation. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room at the time of the crime. What's more, you opened your locker when the camera was turned away. Order, order! It would seem that's the only... Now hold your horses. Sorry, partner. You got the wrong man. So what if my locker was opened? Doesn't mean I'm the one who opened it. Murderer needed to hide something, so he opened the locker and stuck it in. It's not my fault he happened to choose mine. Why is everyone staring at me like I'm a wanted man? This guy isn't just playing dumb. He really doesn't know. I hate to rain on your parade, partner, but you're the only person who can open that particular locker. Oh yeah? I call your bluff. You say open that locker, now prove it. No. No. There we go. Only the assigned detective's prince can unlock it. Fingerprint sensor? We talked about this earlier today, just a few minutes ago, actually. The lockers can only be opened by the detectives they belong to. What kind of crazy talk is this? Well, Gumshoe did mention something about this. Locks aren't that obvious. Even some people on the force don't know about the fingerprint locks. So, Sheriff, what do you have to say, in 8 words or less? Let me chew this jerky! I love beef jerky! I only got 1 word for you, partner. No! Witness, explain yourself! This is a joke. It's the worst I ever heard. I assure you this is no joke, Officer Marshall. Please tell us what you were doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime! Olay! Please answer the question! Was he now a bullfighter? That's alright, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure the rest out from here. We can? Have a look at these floor plans. There is no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Yet Officer Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall. If that's so, then where's the witness? It seems Mr. Wright has an answer. That's right, the only possible conclusion. Well then, let's hear it. Where was Officer Marshall at the time of the crime? Well, he's obviously right here. Take that! Officer Marshall was standing right here. There, but that's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was. Correct. Unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in the video is Officer Marshall. It was you, dressed up like Detective Goodman. Well, that's preposterous. Officer Meekins witnessed the detective at the crime scene. Once he saw the man's face, he'd know for sure. May I point out, though, Officer Meekins did not know Detective Goodman. He also testified about the man's reaction when confronted. When I entered the evidence room, I asked him to show his card, sir. And how did he respond? He pulled a knife on me! Something about the officer's story puzzled me. If the man had his ID card, why not just show it? Yes, he would have needed it to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it. The answer is simple. He couldn't show it. As you can see, his picture is on the ID card. Oh, I get it. If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would have realized the man wasn't Detective Goodman. You have anything to say to this, Officer Marshall? I need more beef jerky! You got quite an imagination, partner. We got a term for that called circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence? He's still denying it. Gonna have to do better than that to break a detective. Unless you have hard evidence proving I dressed up as the victim. I can't say I particularly care for your uncooperative disposition. I can't say I care for your beard once again, but you don't see me complaining. Well, Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence proving beyond a shadow of a doubt Officer Marshall dressed up as the victim? Well, who am I kidding? I don't have anything like that. I can see the fear in your eyes, partner. Seems you're the one who couldn't take the dessert... couldn't take the dessert. Yeah, Phoenix Wright can't handle the sweets. Couldn't take the desert heats. Ah! This can't be happening. So obvious he's the one. What can I do? It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I'll pass on to you what someone told me when I was just starting out. When you've run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics. The basics? For me, that would be what Mia used to tell me. Bluff. Just bluff like your life depends on it. Phoenix, try thinking outside of the box. Oh, or that. I shouldn't look for proof Officer Marshall was in disguise. Rather, I should look for evidence that came about because he was in disguise. Why do you think this locker was opened in the first place? What do you mean? There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his locker at the time of the crime. Yet he did, despite the chance it might be discovered later, as it has been. Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker. According to the defense's arguments. Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Goodman at the time of the crime. Then after the crime was committed, he opened his own locker for some unknown reason. The fact that the white cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that he opened it in order to put the cloth inside. So just what exactly is this piece of cloth? Perhaps the video is the key to all our unanswered questions. I don't have any evidence. The video is my only shot. Very well, let's take yet another look at this damn security tape. After committing the crime, the witness opened the locker to put away the white cloth. Please show us why the witness had to open his locker. Honestly, I'm not sure. Oh, I see. Because he's freaking bleeding. For some reason, you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman and enter the evidence room, though I don't know to what end. Yet. However, something unexpected happens. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show your ID card, you pulled a knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked, and the white coat you were wearing was soiled with blood. A bloody white coat? Couldn't just walk out like that, so you hid the coat in your locker. Not bad, partner. Now then, Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth? Looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, if you were only half as persistent then as you are today, we all wouldn't have to be here now would we? Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did. All of it. Alright, seems the time has come.